In our series, we're currently looking at how John is fulfilling the call to be the forerunner. And we're seeing that he's coming after 600 years to help make the dream of a 600 years of waiting a reality. He's heralding the arrival of the king by rolling out the red carpet and making all this pageantry of announcing the arrival of the king. But he's also talking about creating the access to the king to come by removing obstacles to make it easy for people to come. And in Matthew 3, as we saw in one of our earlier sessions, his message is about doing this because the kingdom of heaven is near. And what John is telling us is that the king is coming for his kingdom. And when a king returns to his kingdom, if he's been absent for a while, I grew up as a fan of Robin Hood and the tales of Robin Hood, and how Richard the Lionheart was away imprisoned in the Crusades, and Robin Hood was standing up for the justice against the wicked Sheriff of Nottingham and Prince John, who were ruling the country illegitimately, until one day Richard the Lionheart returns from the Crusades and reclaims his kingdom and rights all the wrongs. When a king returns to a kingdom that's been overtaken by the enemy, he comes to drive out the enemies. He comes to heal the land and reclaim the territory. And he comes as a righteous king to rule with righteousness. When Isaiah prophesied about the forerunner coming, he was prophesying to a nation that was being carried away into exile. And they were living with a sense that Yahweh had abandoned them. They had been unfaithful to their king, they had been unfaithful to God, they had rebelled against God, and consequently they were reaping what they sowed and being carried away into captivity for 70 years as a punishment to deal with the sin of rebellion that they'd had. And so there was a feeling when Isaiah prophesied that they were looking for the return of the king to come and reclaim his kingdom because of the feelings of having been abandoned by Yahweh. And they believed that when they returned, there would be the Messiah coming to restore the nation. The nation had been captured by the Assyrians, by the Babylonians, by the Persians, and now here we have in John's day, they're being ruled by the Romans. You know, there's a sense of these territories coming through, where you'd seen the Greeks coming through, the Medes, the Persians, the Greeks, and finally the Romans, as Daniel prophesied. And so they're looking for a Messiah to come and restore the nation. But as we saw when we looked at the kingdom of heaven before, the kingdom of heaven is a very different kingdom to the kingdom that people had an understanding for. It's no longer a geographical kingdom. It's no longer a national kingdom bounded by borders. It's no longer linked with a cultural identity of one particular people group. But now it's a kingdom that is available to everyone who, as John says, repents and receives this gift of salvation. And what we see is that the king is coming to usher in a new spiritual kingdom. A kingdom where it's born of the Spirit, not born of a national identity. In fact, when we're reborn, and remember that when Jesus came, he talked to Nicodemus about being born again. And the idea of this spiritual kingdom involves a sense of rebirth. It involves a sense of being adopted into the family of God, of being reborn, of being born again. And in doing that, of being born again, of being adopted as sons of the King, of being given a new inheritance and a new identity, we receive a new status. But that status is one that's written on hearts and not written on a passport. I wonder, are you living as a son or daughter of the King in the kingdom, knowing the King, knowing his heart and living his values? Are you ushering in the kingdom values into your community today?